Can you hear me? Okay. I thought I'd just go live because I haven't for a while. It's been very busy. And going live again. I was going to test the lapel microphone. I forgot. I wanted to go live immediately. And then I thought, oh, as I went live, lapel microphone. So I'm just going to go live. I'm just going to do it. All right. Okay. And the only reason I thought I'd go live is because I haven't done it for a while. And in the middle of what would you call it? Just working. I'm just in the studio working. It's been a while since I've actually had a chance to get in here. So it's good. It's good to be in here. And yeah, basically, what can I? Well, I might share. I might not, but we live. That's the main thing. Okay. Drinking coffee. I am drinking coffee, which is good. Let's just go to what I'm doing right now. Tilt that down. I might get annoyed by the camera and then just switch it off altogether. But where are we at? So, as you can see, can you? Let me take it off here. I'm gonna go live. See if I can turn this around. Yeah. I'm actually currently working on myself, right? That's what I'm actually currently doing. So what you're seeing here is Sid as a machine. So I'm trying to basically, I call my work, it's my mechanical work at the very least is, I jokingly, and it's not a joke, it's absolutely not a joke, but it's a bit funny, if you know what I mean, I call my machine a working model of myself. So all these scratchy bits of paper, they're all made by my machine, right? Scratched, and so, I've obviously torn into some of these, and then I thought, what's the next step? So I've made a machine that is a model of myself. How much is it like me? So what I've done here, and this is essentially the question I'm asking here, is I've essentially built the machine again, and but more like me. And I've given it my arms, I've given it my hands, and I ask myself, well, what is the most important thing that I do, And it's possibly that I drink coffee, and then I thought, well, that's possibly a really good way to test if the machine is if a machine can ever become like us, because presumably if it becomes like us, it should also like coffee. Otherwise, that's my proxy, right? That's where I draw the line. If the thing doesn't like coffee, it's not like me, all right? My cousin was talking to me the other day saying they're making, the next level of AI is, what did he say? Basically that, let's have a seat, is basically that we're going to download all of ourselves onto some sort of, I don't know, AI-like thing, and essentially have a copy of ourselves that readily emulates us in all aspects. And I thought, okay, that's fine. All right, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. And I thought, well, let me test that. let me test that, shall I? I mean, I have a laboratory here. I can just test that. I can do the experiments because I'm also a scientist. I'm a qualified scientist, so I can actually experiment. I can test that idea. And I thought, well, what is if I'm a scientist, how are we going to test that? Well, I've got to make a model. I've got to build the version of myself that is artificially intelligent. And what I've really come up with is it is artificial, but it's artificial AI, artificial I. Get it? AI. And this is who I've built here. This version of myself is artificial I. I guess the more I become like it becomes like me, the more we merge. I'm actually looking for a black pen right now because I realized significantly I have no torso, and that's a problem. A working model of the self should at least have a torso. So I'm currently looking for a black sharpie, essentially, just to describe a generous torso to myself. So that's what I'm doing right now. I actually was doing it for quite a little bit before you joined me, and find myself surprisingly unable to find a black sharpie. I mean, that is a really basic piece of machinery. Which actually reminds me of something. while I walk around looking for a black sharpie, I'll tell you another story. So this weekend, I made a promise to a friend of mine. All right, I'll just come clean. All right, it was my son's bar mitzvah this weekend. Right, very important milestone in the life of a young Jewish person, and I wanted to celebrate. Well, I was going. It's a very big ceremony. It's a big deal, and part of that is what a thing I wanted to do as part of that. I just spoke to another friend, a dear, very close friend of mine, whose son had passed away a few years ago from a long-standing illness. Which is, obviously not an easy thing, to say the very least, unimaginable, should I rather say. And I wanted, during my son's bar mitzvah, during the shul service, the synagogue service, to say a prayer, basically, a homage, a prayer and a tribute, a something. While my son was celebrating this incredible milestone, I didn't want to forget about my friend and his son. So I thought, I'm going to say a prayer for him during this time where all my thoughts should be on my own son. I'm going to just spare a moment for my friend's son. But of course I was absolutely, for those who know, I to remember something like that is not easy. Okay. You get caught up in the moment, and it's impossibly difficult to remember these things, or I certainly would think so. So I took a peg and I put it in my pocket, a clothes peg, and walked around the synagogue with this peg in my pocket. And people said to me, "Why is there a peg in your pocket?" I said, because I'm trying to remember something. So the reason I'm telling you this story, and then I did, enough people told me this so that I did remember. And I was able to remember to say a short prayer for my friend's son. And I realized there was something, we build these fancy, sophisticated machines, but in that moment, that simple peg was quite a sophisticated device. I'm not exactly sure what it was doing, but I know it wasn't hanging clothes off a washing line. It had managed to do something else. It had gained some kind of other functionality through where it was in space and in time. And because its context had changed so dramatically, completely, you never see a peg in the context of a spiritual ceremony like that. You rarely see a peg in someone's pocket. You might see a brooch, you might see a handkerchief, but you won't see a peg. So it elicits its complete out of place behavior elicited a response which allowed it to become in my eyes, quite a sophisticated piece of machinery. And I didn't need to engineer any really, really fancy thing. I didn't have to program some sophisticated computer or a telephone, which is a very sophisticated computer. I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to speak to a expensive machine. I could just use a peg, an incredibly simple device, and it became a profoundly cybernetic object, an object that interacted with its environment and compelled, maybe this is the point I'm trying to make, compelled behaviors in others and not random. Like, it compelled exactly the behavior that I wanted it to compel. I wanted people to say, "Why have you got a peg in your pocket?" That's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want them to say anything else. And that is the response that it got, which is kind of it's really interesting. So I built one of my fanciest machines, I would say. I've one of my most sophisticated machines I managed to build this weekend. And I didn't even build it. I just removed it from its normal context and put it in a different context. I haven't named that machine yet. And at some point, the machine broke down during the course of the afternoon. Well, once it fortunately had performed its function. I thought I'd use it to remember something else afterwards, but it broke, so it wasn't a big deal. But the point is, I made a very sophisticated piece of machinery that afternoon. I'm claiming to have made one, and yet I didn't make anything. I changed the context of something, and in a certain context, it had a very specific behavior. And that is a seed for something, which I'm not sure what yet, but I know it's a seed for something. It's part of my ongoing inquiry into how these, I seem to be inquiring a lot about machines and their role in our lives and how we interact with them. And because I found myself making machines, not because I ever thought I wanted to make machines. I never as a child had any interest in anything mechanical, but it's become a big part of what I do. And I'm very curious to see the kinds of questions that machines ask us. I've now installed at the front of my studio, at this entrance to my studio, it's a permanent installation. It's going to evolve too. It will evolve like all my machines do. Currently, it's a toaster, okay? But I've removed it from its regular context, completely removed it. So now it's going to, I hope, compel a behavior in me to make it into something other than what it was, other than what it was teleologically constructed to do, i.e., burn bread, right? I can't find the black pen. I need to go look inside. But while I'm looking, and I'll just continue to look for it. I mean, because while I talk to you, I can look for a black pen, surely. Now, the other thing that coalesced over the last 2 weeks was the entire time I've been doing these iterative experiments. This is number 20, by the way. The entire time I was working on I was sewing, right? I was doing a tremendous amount of sewing. I was, what was I doing? I'd taken a drawing, I destroyed it. Do you remember like a few episodes ago, I decided that I was very unsatisfied with a particular work and I destroyed it in a public context. In other words, while filming it, while you were there, I destroyed it, broke it down. And then I tried to rebuild it. And given that it had, I'll just point the camera to it, I tried to rebuild it. And what became really clear is in the rebuilding is it started becoming a metaphor for how all of us, all of our ideas, all of our ideologies are very tenuously held together by, it's very difficult for them to reach into each other, and somehow they are tenuously held together by threads. It's a metaphor, right? At least in my world, in my reading of them, I'm trying to tenuously hold this all together, maybe in my own head, as I became more and more interested in who we are, how we can hold different conflicting ideas in different minds, my mind, other people's minds, so different, but so defining, something so completely all we can believe, and how strongly we hold the views that we do, whether it's religious, whether it's science, whether it's a new ideology. We hold onto these things with great, we are the one animal that clings almost mercilessly to ideas. Like we die for ideas. And I'm trying to hold all these ideas together because I think that's my nature. I think I want to find the ways that different cultures can hold onto each other without destroying each other, really, So that is what I think that's what I was acting out in the Gestalt sense of the word. I think I was acting that out by the threading, by the compulsive threading of these very tenuous pieces of paper, which came from my culture. I mean, these are all words from the Bible that I've handwritten. Some Hebrew words over there, all from the text of Genesis, which is part of an ongoing exploration of mine, the text of Genesis. And, it's interacting with all other ideas that are kind of written on top of it. There's my machines drawings, some of the scratchy lines, scratchy marks. There's my science ideas, my art ideas, all trying to find how they can hold on to each other. And then when I finished the work, well, when I thought it was finished, I put it up and it wasn't finished, and there wasn't a chair there. And then, yes, I had this, I guess, I felt it needed to be held together by something. I thought the threads were holding it together. But then I drew the chair on top of it, and that is what ended up holding it together. It held the chair, that fragile form of the chair, that one object, that we think is for sitting on. It's another example of my peg, an object whose real purpose is to be sat on, but also changing its context can change its meaning, can change what it does. So that is the work now complete, and now I've just got to figure out how to frame it, how to hang it, because it's now just flimsily leaning on a piece of whiteboard, and it's kind of even got to be removed off of that so that it maybe hangs more in space, but that's a problem for another time. So I did want to share that, and otherwise I think what today is, I'm not going to carry on for much longer because I need to go find that black pen, and I realize I'm going to have to go into the house. And you, well, do you want to just hang out here while I go look in the house for the black pen? Why not? Okay, yeah, that was the idea. It's got to be half an hour. So stick around if you like. No sign of the black pen. No sign. Well, you can help me look. Beautiful day, by the way. Look at that. There's my old olive tree. Nothing better. Back in. Have you said hello to OJ today? OJ? Have you said hello to the people? Have you said hello to the people? Yes. Have you seen a black pen? You haven't chewed my black pens, have you? Have you been chewing my black pens? Yeah. You may well have. Preventing me from doing my work. Hey, come, let's go and have a look. Not here. Not here. Not here. Oh, this is irritating. Aha! What is that? Okay. There we go. Very useful surface, this, A lot of things here. if you're prepared to dig, prepared to look, you will find. If you're prepared to look, ye shall find. So there we go. Now, does it work? Let's test. Hang on a sec. Lean you over there. It works a charm. Okay? Now, okay, you're going to watch me now. You're going to watch me draw a torso. Okay? So, I have cheated a little bit. I've drawn some of the black lines like, because I want this to be just describing very simply, nothing fancy, just the fact that it's not just a random, it's actually a full form. So that is something I want to make clear. I don't want this to be like it's not about making an interesting, expressive drawing. Oh, that's always nice if that happens. It's really just about getting the point across of what this is. Okay? So this is, hopefully gets the general idea. All right, so now it kind of looks like a figure. Got to watch it because I think this could take a while. Yes, it's quite smudgy, so I'll have to give it a couple of minutes to dry. The face we can experiment with. This might not be the final form. And right now, what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to treat this very much like turn this around. So I'm doing experiments. I'm experimenting with myself as a face and then testing the ideas, trying to be scientific about whether this, it's a bit like, it's this idea. So we have these new large language models, or very sophisticated AI, things that seem to be very smart, right? We can argue for hours about where they are, where they aren't. The point is they seem to be. And there's a lot of shows, a lot of podcasts, a lot of conversations online by scientists. Scientists are talking about it. Like it's on science shows. Like I was listening to this science show, The Naked Scientist, the other day. Chris Smith, it's a great science podcast. And they were talking about large language models. I was listening to Stephen Wolfram, I think an incredibly interesting human being who developed he developed the new kind of science using computational language to recapitulate a lot of the theories of physics. He emerged through his iterative, rule-based algorithmic model of modeling the universe. People like that, some very important scientific minds, people in the tech world, Google engineers. These are the people that are deciding the fate, they're the people discussing the consequences of these large, artificial intelligence systems. They might not be the right people. I mean, I think the point I'm trying to make here is that, once these things are here, they are now phenomena in the world. All right. And now they are phenomena to be explored by all manner of people, not just scientists. I'd like to say what I think. Actually, I'm not being clear. What I'm really trying to say is I'm trying to be like a biologist, looking at large language. I'm accepting them as here, right? And now, how do you study something that's here as a biologist? That's not squishy, not even local. Like if I was a biologist studying an animal, I'd be able to dissect it, look at its different organs and figure out how to fit together. Or this is more like an ecosystem, more like an ecologist. They have to look at the consequences of these large language models, not individuals. Not people looking at individual animals. It's a much more complicated thing than that. The point I'm making, and I'm really not being clear today, is that, once the phenomena has appeared in the world, it's no longer science. It might have been made by scientists and technologists, But now it needs to be looked at by a lot of different thinkers. And when I say thinkers, I mean everybody really, but a lot of different thinkers need to think about what this phenomena is in the world. You know, it can be studied by scientists, but scientists as trying to study it as a phenomenon in the world, not trying to explain what it is and what it can do. Because what it is no longer a piece of science. It's not really. They might be able to explain how it works, but what it is in the world, that's much more interesting and possibly not the domain of scientific inquiry. I'm inhabiting Sid Sledge here, the biologist, trying to study this thing as if it was some kind of biological phenomenon. That is an absurdist leaning, but as I've always said, the way to really interesting insights is often through a lens of absurdity, because it allows you to ask the unexpected questions and not feel bad about it. You know, if you not feel stupid about it is really what I'm saying. You realize, no, there's something profound to be gained by asking the absurd questions. So absurd is like going at it from a very unexpected route that in common parley would be frowned upon. Maybe is a way of thinking about it. And in my context, it is possibly the only way to go about looking at these things. So I feel like today's been a very, very long, meandering chat. But, you know, got to persist. Maybe I've even said one or two sensible things. I actually just don't know. Okay, I've tried. I'm dry. Should I color myself in? I don't think so. I think we can just keep it as is. I'll give you a little bit of a taste, since you've tolerated this for so long. We'll just test it a little bit, okay? So the idea being, I wanted to try and make the face so it wasn't too static, but I'm also not going to sit there fiddling with it too carefully, because I'm always interested in the motion of things that's unexpected. So here is the, just like my drawing machine, 2 circles, turning, controlling a pen. So let's have the same thing here. And I should attach this somehow a little bit. The head's gone off the top, but that doesn't matter. Let's get a little bit of tape. Just a little bit of sticky tape. And we'll attach it very lightly. In fact, what I should really do is, get a little piece of paper here, like that, right? And then what we do is, just to give it a bit more wobble, we attach it like this, so this paper can actually move, right? Okay, just move a little bit. So not holding it down too rigidly. We'll do the same on the other side, making it kind of like non-memory. It's not a spring, but it's like a bit of a tether, but it's not too constrained. It's also not. It's not probably quite clear. It's like a spring would constrain a bit with quite a bit of linearity, like you'd predict the response. This might have a bit more. In fact, what I should do is loosen that up right now, so that there's a bit more motion. So give it a bit of a tilt. Okay, and even do that. Give that a bit of a tilt. I think then our motion could actually end up being quite interesting. You see that? Right, let's move the real coffee cup away because we don't want him to knock that over. That would be a bit of a disaster. And since you persisted for so long, let's just give it a... You're going to try and lift that coffee cup, okay? As you can see, it's not fully intelligent yet.